This is a nursery, which is part of a Quds hospital, which again was bombed. These are one of the ambulances that were bombed by the Israelis, and in this particular incident, 3 paramedics were killed. The story of one of them, Yasser Shper, is in the book. I interviewed his family. Palestinians are extremely resilient and extremely. His mother, of course, she was in tears, she was crying, but she said, he made me proud when he was alive because he always helped people, and he made me proud after he died because he died while he was helping people. They responded to an incident in Tel El area of Gaza, and as they were about to leave their ambulance, they were bombed by an Apache helicopter. 3 of them died instantly. Luckily enough, there was another ambulance, which nobody was hurt. And sadly, the ambulance crew, the second ambulance, which went to help the injured, went back to recover the 3 bodies of their own colleagues. Now, attacks on ambulances happened so many times. But again, the lie is there. The lie is there. Those ambulances were carrying weapons. Those ambulances were used as military vehicles. Again, no proof. But when they make the lie, their influence and with the sympathy of so many big sections within the world press, people listen to that. And that's why our modest efforts must be there. That's why our voices must be there. Because our voices are the voices of those victims. They have no other voices. They wouldn't find the voice in BBC or ITV or Channel 4 or CNN or Sky. They would find the voice in your voice and my voice and other people's voice. And that's why we have a duty to expose those crimes, not out of desire for revenge. I must emphasize, my book is not about revenge. None whatsoever. It's not about hatred, it's about justice for those people who are extremely poor and deprived. And on top of their poor and deprived life, they were punished even more by the loss of loved ones. This is the person I talked about, the Yasser Shmer, and his family cleaned his vest, and they're so proud of him. They hang it on the wall in the lounge, and they show it to anybody who comes because they're so proud of their son who died as a hero in their eyes, and I believe he was. Because when he dies, helping other people, helping the injured, that's definitely a hero. This is a very, very sad story and a chapter in the book which is called Hurry Up, Give Me a Needle and a Thread. This is Ibrahim Joha, a 9-year-old boy from Eastern Zaytun as well. As I said, this area suffered the brunt of the attacks. Suddenly the paramilitaries occupied the house, ordered the family out. They just said to them, if you don't move, we'll kill you all. They moved south, they were pushed north by another group of Israeli soldiers, east, west, then they ended up hiding in somebody's house, but the house was so crowded with people, more than 87, so they decided to walk towards Gaza City with white flags. That's another crime, war crime, to execute people while they are surrendering with white flags. They were not even soldiers, they were civilians, so they carried white flags. Ibrahim was carrying a white flag and walked in the middle of the street when he was shot in the chest. Now his mother, she's very good at sewing, so in her panic, because they stopped the ambulances from reaching the injured, so they couldn't get the ambulance. She said, hurry up and give me a needle and thread, and she actually tried to stitch the wounds of her son up. And obviously the blood stopped for 2 minutes, but of course the surgical stitch, then it burst. And he died on her lap in the evening after about 7 hours. And the appeals for the ambulances, the ambulance will arrive and they'll be shot at. And nobody could help them. Even after he died, because of the dignity of his body, they put it out in the street, hoping that an ambulance would pass while they were hiding and take it. But no, for 3 days they were bringing the body back and taking it out, bringing it back and taking it out. And that's how they left the house, with the most racist graffiti. They defecated in every single room. They stole the money and the jewelry. It was reported of the family, kill Arabs. This photo was taken by a friend of mine in the 90s called Eva Bartlett. She's a Canadian pro-Palestinian activist, so I used it for the book because all the photos have to be from photographers and they have to give a lot. We couldn't sadly use this photo because it wasn't very good. I took it from the family. Now, killing people waving white flags not only happened with the Juha family in Ibrahim, but this woman called Rawhiya al-Najjar in a village called Khaza'a in the eastern part of where I come from, originally Khan Yunis. When they occupied the village, the town, little town, they ordered everybody to the square. So Rawhiya was very brave. She waved a white flag and she walked in front of 15 women to the main square. Again, she was shot in the head. Other women, she was killed with cold blood. Again, under international law, and as discussed in the book, it is a war crime. Abed Rabbo sisters, very sad story. Again, they occupied the northern part of the Gaza Strip, ordered the family out. The three sisters, grandmother and the father, came out waving a white flag. At 10 meters from the tank, a soldier, hysterically, one soldier got hysterical and shot at them, killed two of the sisters, 7 and 9, and the third one was 5, is paralyzed for life. Injured the grandmother, the father wasn't injured. They took the bodies back, they tried to go out, they couldn't, the ambulances weren't allowed as always. They appealed to their neighbor who's got a horse and a cart. He brought his horse and a cart out, they shot the neighbor, they shot the horse. That was the level of the crimes that were committed. And those statements, they were taken under oath. And they were not taken, they were not only told to me, but to the Goldstone report. You know, the judge, the Southern African judge called Goldstone, has written a report. He headed a commission which went to Gaza, wrote a very, very detailed report, condemned Israel for war crimes. And it is a document now that condemns Israel for war crimes. Unfortunately, Goldstone, went back on what he said as a person because the level of attack on him from the Jewish community in Southern Africa was unprecedented, to the extent that they wouldn't allow him to attend the bar mitzvah, which is like the equivalent of the christening of a Christian child, of his own grandchild. So he said, if time goes back, I wouldn't write the report the same way, but doesn't carry any weight because he wrote it not only himself but with a lot of legal experts, a lot of people from other organizations, and this document condemns Israel for the war crimes they were committing. These are my neighbors, Kassab and Ibrahim. The chapter in the book is called Ibrahim, Kassab, Shakespeare and Dickens. Their father Muhammad lives on the border, very, very close to the watchtower of the Israelis. And Muhammad didn't believe in conflict. Contrary to, he invited the Israeli soldiers for tea and coffee in his little olive grove. He was criticized by the community, but he said, no, I believe in coexistence, those are human beings, I want to live my life. He didn't have any interest in politics, radical politics or whatever. All what he cared about, those two lovely chaps, I know them personally, they're my neighbors, I knew them since they were children. Kassab was a very gifted architect. This is the graduation project, the western elevation of his graduation project. Ibrahim was an accountant or a student accountant in third year, and he was very promising. And according to the reports I show, his tutors in the university, they were expecting him to be a real brainy accountant when he graduates. Why I called it Shakespeare and Dickens? Because their father was a very highly intellectual man. He's got a massive library. And he said to me that when they were 14 and 15, they read Alberto Moravia, they read Tolstoy, they read Shakespeare, they read Dickens. They were very gifted children. And the story is so shocking. Muhammad, during the truce between 11 and 3, because after 4 or 5 days, how am I doing on time now? After 4 or 5 days, Muhammad the Israelis started to declare a truce between 11 and 3 to allow civilians to go and buy and shop. And so during the truce, 12 o'clock, he took his car and drove back from his olive grove to Khan Yunis town. He passed the tank, so he said to them, Assalamu alaikum in Arabic and Shalom in Hebrew, your peace upon you. 50 meters, and then the fire in the car. Qassab died instantly, and Ibrahim was injured in his leg, in his thigh. They thought it was a mild, not serious attack, but obviously it was in the, sorry, I'm not a doctor, but in the artery here. And he was on his father's lap from 1:30 in the afternoon to 11:30 before midnight. And his father, for 3-4 hours, he wasn't even allowed to touch his mobile. Whenever he touched the mobile, they would shoot near them. Until he said, let them kill me and pick the mobile, and started talking to satellite channels. I personally listened to him live when he was appealing to the world to help him. A very remarkable man. At 11:30, Ibrahim died on his lap. The following morning, 11 o'clock, the ambulances were allowed to reach. Ibrahim, his uncle, because in our culture we call kids after their uncles or after their parents or grandparents or whatever. So the uncle of those two kids was a very, very good friend of mine from childhood, and he told me that he was 300 meters from them, crying his eyes out and screaming to the Red Crescent, the Red Cross, but they told him, we can't. If we reach, if we arrive, if we approach, they will shoot at us and they will do it. They shot at ambulances. Muhammad, their father, unfortunately, couldn't take the pain after the death of his kids, and he died a year later in September. This is now the infamous story of Al-Fakhura United Nations School. Now, the United Nations gave the coordinates of its establishments in the Gaza Strip to the Israeli army, so that the Israeli army will not bomb those areas. So when the ground attack started at the beginning of January 2009, thousands of Palestinians fled their homes, and where they thought to seek shelter? United Nations schools. So they just went, occupied the different classrooms in the school, different areas, different labs, whatever, and they lived in it, thinking that this is the safest place. And that's what happened. They bombed the school with white phosphorus, tank shells, and this particular photo, which is in the book, was taken by a Polish friend of mine called Eva Jiziokovich, and who's a brave woman, somebody I highly respect. She was under fire with the medical crews during that war, helping the Palestinians, a human being of the utmost principles and human values. This is the classrooms after the attack. You can see, and I do apologize for the horrific nature of some of the photos, the blood. And when they bombed that area, they not only bombed the school, they bombed the entire area. And this family, this lovely family called the Deep family, 3 brothers living in 3 different houses next to each other, as the Palestinians do. They gather in this yard in front of the houses, which is a private like. They gather with their beloved mother, Hajja Shamma, the brother Samir, the other Hussein, and the kids play. Lovely child Noor on the beach of Gaza in August 2008, the last time she enjoyed the beach. Their beautiful sister Asil. And as they were sitting down, Hussein told me, his son survived. First rocket landed in the oil proof next to them. So, because of the nature of what's happening in the Gaza all the time, people are really, So they thought, yeah, that's near, it's fine. The second one closer, the third one right in the middle. And that's the scene. That's before, obviously not that particular gathering, but similar one, and that's after. Aya, one of the daughters, was preparing a dough for the extended family, died. 11 members of the same family died, including this beautiful Noor, Asil, Hajja Shamma, Samir, other kids, again, all of them are detailed in the book. And the sad fact of the matter is that Mu'in, the father of Noor, and Musheir told me that this household believed in peace. And this household was willing to support any compromise that will end the suffering and that will reach a solution between us and the Israelis. And he said to me after that I lost every interest in all what I believed in. And I feel so, because he was, his wife and 5 kids in the same attack. A family which is not, it's a strong Fatah supporters, nothing to do with Hamas, back to the point I mentioned at the beginning. So the attacks were on everybody. The tragedy of a Samuni family, if you remember I spoke about that little baby with the malformation, and the mother comes from a Samuni family. I didn't want to write about the Samuni family because their story was covered in details in so many documents, including the Goldstone report. But then Tamam, the nice woman from the Gaza Center for Rehabilitation, she said to me, I already spoke to them and the kids are waiting for you. I said, I don't want to go. She said, no, please, they will be upset. So I phoned the father to apologize. She said, oh, no, the kids, they didn't go to school to wait for you. And what a mistake it would have been if I didn't go. To listen to the story of Abdullah, this lovely, lovely young boy. The story of a Samuni family, or the tragedy of the Samuni family. And by the way, I've got to mention this in my previous talks. Israel accepted, for the first time, the responsibility for what happened, which is very strange. They ordered everybody in the extended families to gather in one storeroom as big as this. 100 people, men, women, and children. They spent the night crammed on top of each other. Following morning, without any warning, they bombed the room. 22 people were killed instantly. Many were injured. And obviously, people started to want to go out. Now, Abdullah's injuries were very severe. In his leg, in his shoulder, and Muhammad just his hand. So the father was injured, carried Muhammad, and wanted to carry Abdullah. And Abdullah said to him, Daddy, I'm dying, save my brother. A 9-year-old, in a very sweet way, said that to his father. So the father accepted that and just took Muhammad. This boy spent 4 days on top of 22 corpses. I do apologize, but the level of crimes, when they talk about Israel, when they talk about the country which is like the darling of the West, the country which is above international law, we must understand that this is a criminal state. Away from rhetoric. I'm not now talking in my voice, I'm talking in the voice of these people. And that's what matters. These people have no voice but mine and yours. So, for 4 days, he could hear his father and mother crying 100 meters. And he couldn't shout, of course, because he was in severe pain. He couldn't move because his leg, severe injuries to his leg and the bottom as well. And one of his cousins crawled to the fridge and just brought him tomatoes. And he obviously he urinated when he was sitting, and he could see his cousins one after the other die. Like he tells the story. One of them was hit and died, and her phone will ring, her mobile phone will ring, and obviously she can't reach it. She's like dying. And nobody could reach them for 4 days. Ambulances went a lot. He told me he could hear the sirens, and then suddenly waves of gunfire. That's how Israel treated these people. Anyway, after the 4th day, they allowed the ambulances and took him. Of course, he's severely traumatized, and his brother Muhammad needs correction and many surgeries, but he's severely traumatized. He lost interest in life. He's very preoccupied. And before I left, he insisted that he brings his baby brother to show me, because he told me that this is the only enjoyment I have in life. And they brought his brother Faris. By the way, he was called after the name of his brother was killed in that attack, called Faris. This beautiful sister Suzanne. But despite the tragedy, they were telling me pleasant stories about how they like to play Tom and Jerry, and how they fight who's Tom and who's Jerry. These stories I'm trying to bring in the book. I'm not only trying to say politics and suffering, I'm just trying to say every case I'm trying to bring the human side to it, as well as